at these beards.
Alex, do you have a beard too?
Nah, man, I'm clean shaven.
Oh man.
I have a new girlfriend, so I gotta look my best.
Your club for men.
Exactly.
I know. We just have to decide when we want to shave. Right? We're gonna look like Civil War soldiers in a moment.
Yeah,
Dude,
we're
it's a
getting
pretty
ready
grizzled crew.
we're getting ready for the prequel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So let's first of all, congratulations on Union Bridge. I'm going to see how this actually going to work because this is my first time using Zoom myself. So so I went ahead and pressed record. Hopefully that's actually recording. Otherwise, this is just a meet and greet at this point. But
It says recording on this end. It says recording, so I think
Okay.
probably is.
terrific. So let me start first. Is where did this idea came from, and then for the rest of you gentlemen, tell me why you are attracted to a project like Union Bridge.
Well, the idea came from, well, first of all, I wanted to do something. I was in the comedy space for a while, and I wanted to do something kind of a bit more cinematic and different. And a guy I knew was telling me a story about how he gave me a call one night as an old friend, and he said, I'm living in New Mexico, I'm broke, and I'm actually, at night I go out and I look for this treasure. There's a legend of a buried treasure outside the town. And with my dogs, I go out and look for this treasure. And I'm thinking, what's on this guy's mind? You know, where's his head at? I mean, I think part of it was just kind of fun and the thrill, but I also know that, you know, he needed money. So I thought that was an interesting jumping off point to think about if someone is looking for a buried treasure, what's their headspace, and are they delusional, or do they know something that might actually be real?
What about you gentlemen? Why did you want to do a project like Union Bridge?
I just thought it'd be a fun world to kind of hop in. I've always been a fan of, you know, noirs and mysteries, thrillers, and something that doesn't take place in, you know, New York City, you know, because I'm in New York and doing a lot of films around here. It's kind of like, oh, let's film in this person's apartment. We'll shoot a film. Maybe we'll go upstate. So this sounded like a cool opportunity to kind of jump into a different world I wasn't totally familiar with.
Alex?
Yeah, I was interested with like Nick Taylor's backstory, and I felt in the script there was a lot of latitude given to maybe where this guy's coming from, what his life's been, maybe before we meet him in the movie, and so I found like his physicality and the mystery behind him very, very compelling.
Excellent. One of the things that I actually found about the script, or maybe the film itself, is the lack of dialogue. Could you talk about writing a script with very little dialogue? And I know there's with the lack of dialogue, it's probably challenging for the actors themselves too, right?
Well, from a script perspective, the script was only about 60 pages, and that was intentional because I really did want to leave a lot of room for basically to make kind of a cinematic experience relying more heavily on visuals and music and kind of things that were more inferred rather than explicit. And the funny thing was when we started shooting the scenes, I actually started taking out more dialogue because I realized that the scenes actually kind of played better in more of like a minimalistic style. And so, you know, Alex and Scott and everybody, you know, did a great job of adjusting on the fly and then kind of locking into the real reason for the scene, you know, without being explicit about it through dialogue.
Alex and Scott, I mean, was it a challenge to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, everything's kind of a challenge, and I think for myself as an actor, it's kind of, it could maybe sometimes be easier if I have a lot of dialogue, because it'll give me a better idea of what I'm doing. So yeah, it was challenging to strip away the dialogue and really just hone in on the language and the emotion of this scene that we were shooting.
Yeah, I enjoyed the challenge of it because again, it gave me a lot of opportunity to kind of build who this guy was
Mm.
maybe behind the script for myself, so I could come in, for every scene loaded up, either emotionally or kind of knowing where the tendrils were for kind of my actions and stuff. So I know certainly I felt like maybe Nick's most explosive scene is when he comes home to confront his mother and get her out of the bathroom. And I think for me, having a limited runway of who this guy was, that was the key to the character in terms of understanding his home life and maybe what he was like, or maybe where his life became difficult.
So this doesn't leave a lot of room for improv in a movie like this for anyone, right?
I mean, I tried to leave as much room for not just the actors, but everybody, all the artists involved to do what they wanted creatively. I just tried to make sure that it was anchored back to, the big picture of trying to deliver the movie as to what I kind of had the vision of it for. But so I think the guys did improv some. I'm trying to think how much improvisation there was. Maybe you guys would remember better than me.
Yeah, Brian was pretty free with kind of letting us take big swings if something felt right. I don't recall there was a ton of improvisation. I mean, there was, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I felt for Nick Taylor, at least, I felt in a way, this guy is a little bit siloed off from, the A storyline. So I always kind of felt like I had logic to my scenes, whether I was compulsively digging for the treasure or trying to get my mom out of the bathroom, and so forth. So I don't think I improv that much, but I thought the interpretation I could have for each scene I was given a lot of leash from Brian.
Yeah. The one thing I think found fascinating is could you guys talk about the environment, the town that this entire production was being filmed at? How was that setting? How was the environment? How was the feel overall?
I'd be curious to hear from Scott about that, since I grew up in kind of a rural area, and Scott's coming from New York.
I loved it. It was great. It's a small. Everyone was just so very, very warm and welcoming and happy to have us. We filmed a lot in this liquor store right off of the main street, and Kathy was the name of the owner, and she's just such a great person, and it was nice to see her every day. And even when we weren't shooting in the liquor store, if we were like shooting down the street or whatever, I'd always like walk down and say hi to her, and everyone was very warm and welcoming. It was nice. It was a very fun experience.
Alex, did you like shooting in Union Bridge?
Yeah. I would go for early morning runs, and people kept pulling over to see if I needed a ride somewhere. The idea of fitness wasn't maybe a top priority or something, but no, I enjoyed it. Like I was born in Richmond, Virginia, and I spent some time in Tennessee, and I think it has that southern charm, but there also is kind of maybe a darker history shared on those grounds, and so I thought that was a kind of a successful plot point in the film that was compelling to me and something I recognized.
Is there those areas have a lot of dark history or something like that from the Civil War?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you have areas where originally the title on the script was Dandelion, I believe.
Yeah.
And I took that, I interpreted that as, from in battlegrounds where there are a lot of dead bodies or mass burials, often years later, there's actually like a lot of fertility in the ground from these like decomposing bodies. And sometimes there's like massive flowers or brush and something that grows over these like mass burials and kind of bloodshed. So I thought that might have been an inspiration for the original title, which I found resonant and kind of heavy.
Yeah, the town itself is interesting because it is right kind of near the Mason-Dixon line. So you do have all this real history that happened there where soldiers stayed at this place and people, and all that type of thing. And so the town itself also feels like it's a small town. It feels like it hasn't really changed much in, I don't know, 50 years, 60 years or whatever. And so it feels a little captured in time. And I think that made it really unique and created an atmosphere that a lot of these towns are kind of fading away now. So in a sense, it was almost like this mythic American town in a weird way.
So the house was easy or hard to actually discover to use on location?
You said the house?
Yeah, the house itself. I mean, it's a grand house.
Yeah, so that is interesting. That actually belongs to the Shriver family. So the Shriver, they're kind of part of the famous Shriver family. They have like 4 of these really large houses out in about 10 minutes away from the town. And someone introduced me to them, and I said, well, I'd love to shoot here. Your house is perfect for it. And they let us. And yeah, that was a great house. And we actually kind of we also cheated another location to be part of the back of the house. So we kind of got the best of both worlds where it just looks like this large house, but also this huge amount of land. So it gives the feeling that the Scheit family really does have this commanding power.
Scott, you enjoyed the being on that house set, perhaps, since you were from New York?
Yeah, it was nice to get out of the city for a bit, and the silence was a bit eerie. Going to bed, I slept at one of the locations, one of the houses that we filmed in. I slept at that house. I was planning on staying there for the whole shoot, and I slept there one night, and I couldn't do it anymore. It was too quiet and eerie and a bit strange. I found new housing.
Almost sounds like a ghost story. Alex, did you get to sleep in one of those houses too?
No, I was in a hotel bunkered up, so I don't have any. The atmosphere was very different, I think.
What about working with the rest of the cast? I know you two guys enjoyed yourselves here, but of course, the rest of your supporting cast did a wonderful job through this movie.
Yeah, they were great. Emma Duncan and Elizabeth Noon. I learned just so much from Alex, Emma, and Elizabeth. They're all very, very highly trained actors and very skilled and really warm people, and being around them every day, I learned something new. And I just had a great time. Everyone was friendly and was just down to just figure it out and try things, and just didn't hold anything back. And it was a great experience working with everyone.
Yeah, it was a joy. It was a lot of fun to. We didn't do too much rehearsal, and so but everyone was very prepared, and so what that allowed us to do, I thought, was take to take really change maybe our tactics as the character in the scene, and actually surprise the other actor and have to really be listening and then read and react in time. And that sometimes doesn't happen on film sets because it just gets bunkered down. There's, they spend an hour and a half on lighting, but then they're losing to daylight or nighttime. They're losing light. So you have like 2-3 opportunities. So I thought this experience was a little bit more intimate on set and kind of with the other actors.
Yeah, well, actually, just hearing your voice, Alex, it reminds me of some of my favorite moments were when Alex and I would have a scene and the camera and Video Village would be, 50 feet away, and it would just be the two of us kind of talking through things, those are moments I really cherish, and they're just fun. Like, ooh, let's try this, and we'll kind of surprise Brian and everyone.
Yeah.
Where was the field that Alex get to dig at? I mean, that's you know that's what like out in the middle of nowhere. And Alex, how did it feel that you got to do manual labor?
Oh man, I luckily have like pretty callous hands to begin with, but I the first day when I was digging, I could tell right away my hands were going to be pretty raw by the end of shooting. Just with the number of times we see him digging and pickaxing. I have had one friend who is like a farmer, and he told me that my technique is on point. And I was relieved to hear that.
That's great.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't mind it at all. I mean, for me to play a character that doesn't have a lot of dialogue and work through the physicality and the visuals was, yeah, like a really, really good challenge.
What about my digging?
What's that?
What about my digging?
Your digging was it was pretty good. Pretty good.
Was it farmer worthy?
We'll have to consult a farmer friend.
Yeah, he didn't mention your stuff, Scott. I don't think that was dismissive. I just don't think it came up in conversation. I'll get back to you though.
That's a good answer. Thank you, Alex.
But also, let's remember like how in character you were. You were digging from a point of view of someone who's been a city slicker.
Yeah.
And so I would never want anyone watching the film to think that's you at your full capacity.
It would not have been authentic if you were a good digger. So as an actor, it was good that you were not a great digger.
I've been preparing my whole life. Thank you.
So on the project with this, especially being an indie film, what do you guys suppose was your personal greatest difficulty or challenge?
I'll just say 2 years. Just 2 years of everything. Yes. The whole thing was a challenge for me. Everything from raising the money to shooting the thing in 15 days to editing to trying to get it into the marketplace. It was all really kind of a struggle, but it got done and it's out there, so that's exciting.
I don't know if I think my biggest challenge shooting this movie was trying to beat Brian's dad at pool every night when I'd come home from set.
You couldn't beat Phil?
He's pretty good. I mean, the whole every day was a challenge because every scene can be challenging, and putting your whole self into it and figuring it out is a challenge in itself.
And Scott was you're in like every scene of the movie, so it's a lot of, shoulder, you had to carry a lot of weight there, just making sure that he's the one in the center of it all, delivering every time. And he did a great job.
Thank you. Just trying to do my best.
Mm-hmm.
And anything for you, Alex?
I think for me it was just more of a temperature thing. We had a few very cold days, early mornings or late night shoots, and like that. As an actor, I feel like I watch movies and I'm taken out of it when I see actors, and I just know like, oh, they must have been freezing in that scene or something. So it was just more of a temperature thing, just because you also get worried you're spending more energy just surviving the cold than you're putting into then you don't have as much resources to pull from for the acting. But no, that was definitely the biggest discomfort, but nothing we couldn't handle.
How do you adjust to something like that? Like cold shoots or nighttime shoots?
A lot of heat hand warmers, and you put them all over your body.
Really?
Yeah.
As the director,
I try to look at it like a character building exercise. That's what my dad always used to tell me if something was hard. So you just kind of get like geeked up, like you just kind of like shake it out, and you're like, oh, this is gonna suck, but let's go, let's do it.
I remember there was a scene originally in the script.
Oh yeah.
One of the nightmare sequences, and that takes place like Mary's in the water and Nick runs into the water and is with her, and it was freezing. I mean, I think you could tell when you watch a film, it looks pretty cold, but like it doesn't look nearly as cold as it actually was. And Alex was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's just get in the water and let's just do it." I was like, "Yeah, I guess let's just do it." We didn't shoot it, but Alex was down.
I mean, I think everyone felt like, okay, if we do this, we got one take, and
Yeah.
there's gonna be no second take.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm here on the West Coast, so it's right now it's about 105 degrees. So I can't imagine how cold the water or coldness it is for you guys on the East Coast. So
I think heat is always better than cold.
Yeah.
I mean, the scenes where Mary and my character are walking through that kind of valley, it was freezing, and it was morning, so there was still this morning dew on the grass and everything, and we're walking through in our shoes and everything. My socks were wet. It was cold. It was a cold shoot.
now this being an indie project, why do you guys are attracted to independent films like this? Why is like Union Bridge would be so important to the independent industry?
Well, I mean, I think that I've worked in like television in the studio space and things like that a good bit. So to me, I wanted to get back to doing something where, it was a little bit outside the box and I had a lot of creative control. And I think I wanted to just make something that, was influenced by a lot of the filmmakers that I like. And there's not a lot of movies like this in the marketplace in 2020 independent film. And so I thought it was cool to throw something out there that, was really, I think, noticeably different than the contemporary kind of indie aesthetic. And so, we'll see if that resonates with people or if it kind of catches or whatever. But I'm glad that all of us made the movie that we wanted to make, I think, and kind of artistically delivered. And, you don't get those opportunities all that much. So I think it's really kind of cool.
Scott and Alex, do you guys enjoy indie films better than larger productions?
I mean, I feel I've mostly only done independent films, but I feel like there's a bit more, the creators are taking more risks. So that could be more fun than playing, doing a film or a story that you've kind of seen often. So that's cool.
I think like what bigger budgets afford you is maybe a lower stress level sometimes on set because there are more people at the disposal of the production to kind of make sure, check the props, make sure everything's right, costumes, all that stuff. I think the onus is a little bit more on the actor for independent films, but what you get as a ricochet is you get a much more maybe psychologically satisfying role to play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking like I've been in a lot of like bigger budget stuff, but like a bigger budget thing where you have like one scene isn't going to maybe be as satisfying or interesting creatively as, something indie that, gives you maybe a larger canvas to work with.
And I also think that working in independent film, the crews are generally much smaller than a big budget production, and I think that aids the intimacy of whatever the film is or the story is, and I prefer a smaller crew.
Yeah, you can move faster. You get in a better rhythm as an actor. I think on smaller sets, bigger sets, invariably they're going to have you in costume ready to go at like 6:30 a.m. and then you might shoot something at like 6 p.m. You're just waiting the entire day. Where I feel like an indie film and the way Brian directs, there's real movement to the day, and you get some momentum built up from that.
I view this movie kind of like a live punk rock show. we get in, you got 2 or 3 takes, and I just want to see, do whatever you can do. It's more important that we kind of express ourselves how we want to express ourselves, whether it's pretty or ugly or whatever. Let's just do it. And so I think that was part of it. The indie vibe here was, let's, like a Ramones song. We're in and we're out, and let's keep going.
Excellent answer. Well, let me start wrapping things up with one more question after I have taken a lot of your gentlemen's time already. I know it's in times like this, but it's always obligatory to ask the question of your upcoming projects. Do you have upcoming projects after all of this pandemic is over?
Do you guys have some stuff going on?
Yeah, I have a movie coming out in August called The Dark End of the Street. And then luckily, I just directed my first feature that I shot in November and was in LA for the month of February editing it, and just got back to New York just as kind of the shutdowns were happening. So I'm in post for that. And then I also shot a film called Good People in January. So I've a couple things coming out.
Yeah, these guys are my inspiration because independent film, that is a huge rock. You got to push up the hill yourself the entire way, from the fundraising to actually physically shooting it and then editing and then finally marketing it and, making an impact so people notice it. So the fact that like Scott and Brian have done that with some features, I have my own feature script that's like a real labor of love, something I believe in, that I'm going to be looking to kind of mobilize next year and make a reality. And then because of COVID-19, I got interrupted, but I'm shooting this Apple TV series called C, starring Jason Momoa and like Dave Bautista and all these action stars. And so I'll be going up to Toronto probably in the fall to finish up that.
I have a script that I have 2 scripts that I'm kind of punching up right now to kind of prepare for, hopefully if Union Bridge makes a little bit of noise, I can get something else into production soon. But I also think what's cool, like that Scott's has made a movie and Alex is going to make one, is that to me, there's this whole other younger generation, not that I'm that much older, but it's like the next generation of guys and women who I think are making kind of do it yourself. They're just doing it. They have the tools, they have the skills, and they're not waiting for things to happen. And I think that there is a kind of interesting kind of alternative aesthetic and really cool thing coming out of that crowd. And so you're going to see more and more things in the marketplace, like Scott and Alex's films and like Union Bridge. And you'll probably notice that it'll be a lot of the same people who are working with each other and connected with each other. And to me, that's the next wave of independent film.
Excellent answers, gentlemen. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing Union Bridge into this unique drama, unique genre here for the world. And it's a great escapism for now. So hopefully all 3 of you stay safe out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.